Hey everyone, welcome back. We're just going to jump right into it. I'm just picking off these U dashes so that I can have a clean, smooth surface to paint on. I recently started using the Home Depot Gildan paint, which is like $19 a can. I was originally using Lowe's, and to be honest with you, it was not worth it because the Lowe's was about $33, so I'm saving $13 a can now. So that makes me very happy. I don't know why I didn't do this sooner, but whatever. So this paint color is supposed to be like a white sandy nude, right? And when I was painting it, I felt like it was gonna come out the exact color I wanted to, but it kind of just came out beige. Still looked really nice, but I wish I went like a little bit lighter. So let me just preface this by saying that there's only certain colors you can paint over without actually painting it white beforehand, right? So this paint is mixed with primer, so I don't have to prime it, but to be completely honest, sometimes you need to put white over it. In this instance, because it's in the same like color family, I did not have to do that. So that's why, as you can see here, I just got straight to it when it came down to the painting. So what I do is I just do one full even coat with the roller, and I just wait and let that dry before I do a second coat. So I'm gonna move on to the other backdrop that I had to do. For this particular setup, all three of the backdrops were the same color. Sometimes that's not always the case, but in this case it was. So here I actually do have vinyl that I had to remove. I use like the same thing that I opened up the paint with. So you can use a paint key to open it, but I just use a flathead screwdriver sometimes, to be honest. And I just pick up a little bit of the side and then I just peel off the rest. This is just regular vinyl from my vendor, dreamprops_MIA. The vinyl was about 36 inches. When it comes to this particular backdrop panel, I want to say I just call it 8 feet, but it's not really 8 feet because it's curved at the top, but it's about 40 inches wide. So I like to do 36 inches wide for my vinyl for this particular panel. So every single panel requires you to have different measurements for the design. And that's why it's very important that if you are not the one providing the backdrop, you at least have the measurements to communicate with the graphic designer basically about what size you need it, because these things being the wrong dimension can literally throw off the entire design. And what I also do is if I'm getting the vinyl, if I'm getting the backdrop from another vendor, I always make sure to get those details. That's why for the most part, if I'm getting backdrops from someone, I just like to get them from George, because George can in return do the vinyl or foam board or wood, whatever design is going onto the backdrop, and he's fully aware of what size and dimensions it needs to be. So this is kind of tedious. Honest to God, what I want to do is I want to start when the event's over, I want to start peeling off the vinyl at the event, because I noticed that the more it sits on it and the longer it sits on it, it almost like cures. So it just takes longer to take off, but it's really not that bad. It's probably like a 5-minute task. So I have used permanent vinyl, like permanent Cricut vinyl on my backdrops. I want to say George uses Oracle, if I'm not mistaken. It comes off, and if it doesn't come off easily with with you scraping it up with something, then the most you would have to do is probably use like a heat gun to basically warm it up and get that to have an easier peel off, if that's what you would want to say. But for the most part, I just like to just pick it off. Now, when I am picking it off, I am very mindful that I'm not creating like a bunch of grooves into the paint, because then that calls for a rougher surface. So here I was just tapping it just to make sure, because you want to always make sure your first coat is like about 95% dry before you put the second coat, because honestly all it'll do is move around that first coat. And the paint that I use is flat interior paint. Do not buy gloss paint. Do not ever buy gloss paint. It takes forever to dry, and I just feel like it does not come out as smooth, and there's really no reason why you need to use gloss paint. People don't realize that gloss paint has a lot more maintenance and a lot more like stipulations to using it. So of course, this is super easy to paint over because it was white. So something I want to say as well is that I always make sure to repaint my backdrops, even if it's the same color. So even if I was leaving this backdrop white, I still would have painted over it because I always like to put a fresh coat. Now, let me tell you, when it comes to that black, do not play those games. You can play those games with white sometimes, but do not play those games with black. For whatever reason, the blacks become ashy or just like a weird tone of color. Always repaint it. The client is paying you and should be paying you enough money for you to actually give a damn to repaint these backdrops. So the roller that I'm using, I want to say it's just the good level. So if you go to Lowe's or Home Depot, they'll show you, or Walmart, it'll say like good, better, great, things like that. I just use good because at the end of the day, I am just painting backdrops. These are things that I used one time and I get it back from the client and I have to repaint it again for the next client. So it's not something that I care about having longevity on. When it comes to painting a room per se or a house, all of these things would go out the window. So don't listen to this if you are painting like something in your home. So now I'm going in with the second coat, and I like for that to just be the same quick run over. You want to make sure you're getting it very smooth. If you paint these things without getting it smooth, what happens is when it dries, you'll see little lumps of paint, and that's just not cute. So I just make sure I have a full even coat. That's what I mean when I'm saying even. You don't want to leave that. It looks insane. So now I'm going to go back again just to make sure that the paint is even. I'm just going to paint over it one more time. Again, I would have been fine with painting this only one time, but I already had the paint out. The paint was already there, so I just ended up doing it for a second time. To be completely honest, the paint was already out. Those little trays that I use, those are just like plastic disposable trays. I do use the red ones as well. Sometimes that you can put the interchangeable like fitted ones. They have them at Lowe's and Home Depot. That's like the hard plastic tray, but to be honest, it's never that deep. I think I'm just gonna go ahead and start using these all the time because the paint can be very messy when you're trying to clean it or wash it off. Some people reuse rollers. I do not do that. That's why I just buy the cheapest quality of things anyways. So don't do what I'm doing here. I was pushing it like this because my ass needed to put more paint and I just wanted to be lazy because I had already closed it up. So this was the overall finished look, and if you can see, the lighting is very different, but it still came out very pretty. Those colors were really nice. That's Eucalyptus by Sempertex, Cocoa by Tuftex, and Navel by Tuftex as well. So yeah, this is how it came out. And the vinyl is 36 inches silver foil, and of course by George. So this is a disaster that I have to deal with this morning. Those are like some centerpieces. I promise it looks worse than it actually is. But I basically have to put all of these balloons together in eights and then put them in a garland. So the lighter like colors with like the red and the blue, the light blue, that's for this morning. So I'm gonna do those first and then load up the truck, make sure I have enough time, and then come back and do the one for tonight. So I basically just have them in sets of 4. I'm gonna just put them in sets of 8. I did too much balloons for both of them, to be completely honest, but I just did not want to have to deal with blowing up any additional balloons while I was there, so it just was not worth it to under prep, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I'm about to do that and just clean up all down there because it looks like a disaster. So this trailer was one of the ones with the ramp. So I have my toolbox in here and my balloons, and I actually don't mind the ramp. It just makes it harder when it has like backdrops, but this one is just foam. It's at a farm in Western. Oh my gosh, it's so cute. All right, so now for the next tutorial. So this is Perfected Parties. This is the same vendor that I did the Barbie party tutorial that I uploaded, I want to say last month. So the vendor that she uses for these backdrops is absolutely amazing. Have used other people in the past and they're not bad, but when I tell you that these things did not move, not even a muscle, and we were outdoor. Obviously, it's very shaded, like it's a very shaded shelter. But if you can look close to the way they set up their legs, I promise you, whatever they're charging her to do these, it's worth every penny. So we're just trying to rearrange like the backdrops. So all of these backdrops are foam board, but it's the really thick foam board, and that helps it one not warp, which is to bend and stuff. The thinner ones always do that, whether it's from humidity or just heat or just over time. That does not happen with her with her foam board backdrops. And then the way they obviously make the legs. And of course, you still have to put like a sandbag or something just to make sure the placement is good. But honestly, it's crazy. You could probably just use like bricks from like Lowe's or something because they are really and truly that stable. So I would definitely say that for some planners, I actually do not accept them using these foam board backdrops outside. Sometimes I'll just straight up tell them I'm not able to work on them, just depending on, the thickness that they're getting. But I promise you, she is not one of those people. She is not one of those planners on that list. Anytime she says she's using foam board, I'm like, okay, because I know that they're of amazing quality. I'm going to look on her Instagram and figure out their exact name and then make sure and put that in the description box as well. So obviously I put these colors together from before. This color scheme gave me a little bit of anxiety because from the photos, I couldn't tell if I wanted to use Spring Lilac by Qualitex or if I wanted to use Pastel Lilac. I ended up going with Pastel Lilac and it was perfect. I also used Cameo by Tuftex. I used Sea Glass by Tuftex, and then I just used Red by Qualitex. So honestly, any red would kind of go with this as long as you're not using that like super deep red. I forgot what they call it. But some brands sell like a super deep red, but this is just regular red. They all look the same for the most part. So what I did was I used the sticky command hooks and I put them behind the middle backdrop as well as the open arch. I'm hoping that I can elevate my tutorials in 2024 by having somebody actually come with me to all of my installs and be able to record from different angles just to give you guys a better idea. But for the most part, I just had to let it sit there. So this is a garland that I want to say it had 8 clusters total, so 8 sets of 8 in it. And of course, I'm going to fill it out. I was just trying to figure out, did she want it to be completely full or did she want it to show some little gaps? Sometimes when you make it too full, it kind of ruins the backdrop because you're not actually able to see the backdrop shape. So I just wanted to make sure that I was only putting enough that it would see the shape. So here I'm actually going to put, I'm actually just trying to like figure out where the characters are going to go because I don't like wasting balloons. So once I figured out, like had an idea a little bit, I just put the balloons around it. So this was just a set of 4. As you can see, I bring these garlands put together. I brought one long one because I knew I was going to go in the middle like that. And then I brought 2 sets, 2 of the garlands had 4 sets of 8. And then I had about 2 or 3 that were just loose sets of 8 per color. And then I had 2 additional sets of 2 that were just the sea glass blue and the cameo, because I did want to put more of those 2 colors just because I felt like they weren't necessarily in the backdrop as much. So I wanted it to pop out with the balloons. So here's what I was explaining of the extra sets that I prepped. And I like to do that because I can always cut it and put it in a set of 8, put it in 2 sets of 4, but I don't like to put it together too much because then it limits me to having control over the design. So I put that whole set of 8 in there. I do use 260s. I have been using just whatever 260s I have because I had a whole crap ton of 260s. So I honestly just been using any color, right? But for the most part, I like to either use clear, white, or black depending on the color scheme of the balloons. In this case, honestly, you can't see through any of them, but I think I was using clear. And as you can see there, I split that in half. So I split that in half because I know I wanted to put one set of a quad, basically a set of 4 into the balloon. And what I do is I tie the 260 to it in a knot in the neck of the whole cluster of the balloons of the set of 4, and then I stick it in and I wrap it around into the balloons around it. So that allows the set of 4, which is the quad, to stay in place. I actually want to do like a little mini like workshop of basically balloon terminology so that you can understand how to effectively understand my tutorials, but also communicate better with your client. So comment below if that's something that you would be interested in. So continuing on, I just wanted to make sure I filled it out exactly how I wanted to, because of course I have to go in and put the 5-inch, but I just wanted to make sure that I had the base of my balloons set. So here I was just adding the set of 8 to the top. I was contemplating whether or not I wanted to put that up there, but the main thing I wanted to do was just to make sure that I wasn't covering up the squiggles of the backdrops, because that was the whole point of the cuteness of the design. So I didn't want to mess that up in any way. So I just wanted to make sure that that was at least showing on some aspects of it. So with this one, I didn't make it. I wouldn't call this oversized. This is just my standard garland. She was charged a standard rate. I do tend to give my planners a lower rate than I would a client, like just a regular client that just found me out of nowhere, just because I already have a morale with these planners. And I know that they usually have a budget where they still need to get paid, but these are the people that put money in my pocket week after week, time after time, year after year. So I just try to give them a special rate because I appreciate that they continuously use me over and over again. So for this particular setup, she was not charged for an oversized garland rate. She was charged a standard rate. And a standard rate is usually for anywhere from 14 to about 20 sets of 8, and that's just my standard. It just depends on the colors that would affect the pricing. So these are standard colors. I did not double stuff any of them. None of them are chrome. None of them are pearl, right? So that's why I was able to give a standard rate. I try to keep it to no more than 4 colors just because it gets busy on the eye anyways. And I feel like people have this thing where they think that you need to include all the colors of the balloons into the design, and that's not the case. You don't need to do that. You can leave some colors out and leave some colors in the aspect of, like what's going on. Like there's no yellow or dark purple in this design or green, but you will see it throughout parts of the actual backdrop design, if that makes sense. So here I'm just building it out just because I wanted a more like triangular piece on the end. For the most part, I always kind of do that. I like for it to be like kind of have a high point and then come down like an avalanche. That's what I call it. So I think that's really just something that is just kind of like my style. I want to work on it more. It's just that I always get like kind of sidetracked, and where I could have put like 1 or 2 like little extra balloons, I don't. So I wish I could go back and do that, like just put another little tiny purple there, or at least put another set of 4 for cameo and just underinflate it. So now I'm putting all of my 5-inch balloons. Now, I used to do these with the 260s, but like I said, going forward, when I have multiple colors in a design, I will be using the rubber band method. Honestly, I may just go ahead and use that permanently, just because I like how I can prep them. I can put the rubber band over it and just pull them out the bag, get whatever color I want. And I like the placement that you're able to get when you're using the rubber bands versus when you're using the 260s. I am very good at keeping my set of 4 in place, but I just feel like I don't know. I just feel like the rubber bands are gonna be my new thing. I'm not gonna lie to you. So here I was just going in from the back because sometimes I don't want the design to look like it's all falling out. I want it to cover up gaps from within, so that's why you see me go in the back. Here I'm just filling out the sides, just trying to create that more avalanche look and just filling in the 5-inch as I go. This was a really simple, easy setup. I actually did not have any more 5-inch past the lilac, which is okay. I always tell myself my rule of thumb is that if it's only one color that does not have the 5-inch, I leave it. I don't make a big deal out of it, but I don't like for it to be any more than one color that does not have 5-inch because it does look a little unfinished and it's just not what I like. So these are the centerpieces. Let's talk about centerpieces. I don't do them. I don't like doing them. I don't like when people ask me for them. But like I said, I make exceptions when it comes to my clients. So these are just acrylic balloon stands. They're going to be linked to my Amazon bio. And I just basically did a set of 8 on the top and then a set of 4 on the bottom. But I did have to put blue tape around the edges of the base because it was popping the balloons. I guess because it was like scratchy. But this was how the overall look came out. It was super, super, super cute. The whole entire event was cute. I'm going to post the pictures on my Instagram. I have not been doing well with keeping up with Instagram, to be completely honest with you. It's just not where I like to be these days. But yeah, this is the overall finished look. I love the little characters. She always does a really good job at putting together the design and just making it really creative. So this setup I did not get to record. I only had a 15-minute time crunch, or basically time setup. The colors that I used were chrome blue, black, white, and dark blue. Dark blue by Quailtex. It came out really nice. The sign is by George. My cousin _ thank God for cakes did the cake, and I'm going to have them linked in the bio, of course, as well. The backdrops are mine. I just painted them regular black, but it came out really cute, but I wish I had more time to set it up. 4 and 2. I think 1.
Yeah, 1. 1.
Princess Aaliyah.